The blood appeared before the bride even reached the altar. Claire Holloway stared at the tiny red stain spreading across the edge of her white wedding veil while the sound of violins drifted through the luxury hotel suite downstairs. For a second, she thought it was lipstick. Wine maybe. Something harmless. But when her fingers touched the fabric and came away shaking, her stomach tightened hard enough to steal her breath. The baby moved suddenly inside her. Not a gentle kick this time. Sharp. Almost nervous. Claire pressed one hand against her 7-month belly and forced herself to inhale slowly. The bridal suite smelled like roses, expensive hairspray, and champagne that had been sitting open too long. Outside the double doors, guests were already taking their seats inside the ballroom. She could hear laughter echoing down the marble hallway. Rich people laughter. Comfortable laughter. The kind that assumed bad things only happened to strangers. Her phone screen lit up again. Nathaniel Brooks. Voicemail. Again. Claire lowered the phone slowly, staring at her own reflection in the mirror. The diamond necklace around her throat suddenly felt too heavy. Nathaniel had been missing for almost 2 hours now. No texts. No calls. Nothing except silence growing louder every minute. That silence scared her more than anger would have. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. The door opened before Claire answered. Sabrina Cole stepped inside wearing a cream-colored satin dress that clung perfectly to her frame. Her blonde hair fell in smooth waves over one shoulder, but Claire barely noticed any of that. Her eyes locked immediately onto the diamond earrings hanging from Sabrina's ears. Evelyn Brooks's earrings. Family heirlooms. Nathaniel's mother once told Claire they only belonged to the woman carrying the Brooks name. Claire felt heat crawl slowly up her chest. Sabrina smiled when she noticed her staring. "You look pale," she said softly. "Maybe you should sit down before the ceremony." Claire swallowed hard. "Why are you wearing those?" Sabrina tilted her head innocently, fingertips brushing one diamond. "Evelyn gave them to me herself." The baby kicked again. Harder. Claire instinctively wrapped both arms around her stomach, while Sabrina watched with a strange calmness that made the room suddenly feel smaller. "You still think this wedding is yours?" Sabrina asked quietly. The words landed heavier than they should have, because part of Claire already knew something was wrong. Not just today. For months. Nathaniel sleeping at the office. Locked phone screens. Conversations stopping the second she entered rooms. His hand hesitating whenever she reached for him lately, like guilt had started living underneath his skin. Claire turned away and kept smoothing the same wrinkle in her wedding dress over and over until the satin lay perfectly flat. Then the suite door opened again. Little Lily Brooks stood there clutching a stuffed rabbit against her chest. Her eyes were wet. "Aunt Claire," she whispered carefully, glancing nervously toward Sabrina. "I saw her leaving Uncle Nate's room this morning." The air disappeared from Claire's lungs. Sabrina's smile never moved. And somewhere downstairs, the wedding music suddenly stopped. The silence after the music stopped felt worse than screaming. Claire stood frozen in the bridal suite, while Lily tightened both arms around her stuffed rabbit, like she regretted speaking at all. Sabrina stayed near the vanity mirror, calm and polished, one hand resting lightly against Evelyn's diamond earrings, as if she already belonged to the family more than the bride did. "Aunt Claire," Lily whispered again, voice trembling now. "I was looking for Grandpa's watch and I saw her come out of Uncle Nate's room. She was crying." Sabrina let out a soft laugh. Children imagine things. But Claire noticed it then. Not the words. The timing. Sabrina answered too fast. Claire looked down at Lily carefully. "What time was it?" "Early," Lily said. "Before the flowers came." That meant before 7 in the morning. Long before guests arrived. Long before Nathaniel disappeared. Claire's chest tightened so suddenly she had to grip the edge of the makeup table to steady herself. The tiny blood stain on her veil brushed against her wrist again, and for the first time she realized it had spread wider while nobody was looking. Sabrina noticed too. Her eyes flickered downward for half a second. Tiny reaction. Almost invisible. But Claire caught it. Then the hallway outside erupted with movement. Wedding staff rushed past the open doorway carrying trays of champagne and whispering nervously into headsets. Something downstairs had gone wrong. Claire grabbed her phone again. Still nothing from Nathaniel. No explanation. No apology. Just that growing hollow silence pressing harder against her ribs. Sabrina slowly crossed the room until they stood only a few feet apart. Claire could smell expensive perfume and peppermint under it. Calm. Controlled. Intentional. You should really sit down before you faint in front of everyone, Sabrina said softly. Stress is dangerous during pregnancy. Claire stared at her. There it was again. Not concern. Warning. The baby shifted sharply inside her stomach as if reacting to the tension in the room. Claire instinctively lowered both hands protectively over her belly, and something strange passed across Sabrina's face for a split second. Not jealousy. Calculation. Then Evelyn Brooks appeared in the doorway wearing pearls and icy composure like armor. There you are, she said sharply. The guests are waiting. Her eyes moved immediately to Lily. Sweetheart, go downstairs. Lily hesitated. Evelyn's smile tightened. Now. The little girl hurried away, clutching the rabbit against her chest. But before disappearing around the corner, she glanced back at Claire with the same frightened look children get when they know adults are lying. Claire felt cold all over. Evelyn stepped inside and closed the suite door behind her. The click echoed louder than it should have. Then she noticed the earrings on Sabrina and smiled faintly. Not surprised. Not confused. Proud. Claire felt something inside her quietly crack. You gave her the heirlooms, Claire said. Evelyn adjusted one pearl cuff calmly. Nathaniel asked me to. The room went still. Claire searched Evelyn's face desperately for some sign. This was cruelty or manipulation or another one of the Brooks family power games. Instead, she found certainty. And somehow that hurt worse. Downstairs, guests suddenly burst into applause. The ceremony music had started again. Without the bride. Without the groom. Then Claire's phone vibrated in her hand. One new message. Unknown number. 3 words. Do not marry him. Claire read the message 3 times before her brain finally accepted the words. Do not marry him. No name. No explanation. Just those 4 cold words glowing against her phone screen, while wedding applause echoed downstairs like some cruel joke. Evelyn noticed the color drain from Claire's face immediately. What is it now? Claire locked the screen instinctively. Nothing. But Sabrina was already watching too closely. That calm expression again. Like she knew exactly what message had arrived before Claire even opened it. The baby shifted hard beneath Claire's ribs, and a sharp ache spread across her lower stomach. Not pain exactly. More like pressure. Stress tightening every muscle in her body at once. You need to pull yourself together, Evelyn said, stepping closer. There are 200 guests downstairs waiting for this family to make an appearance. This family. Not your marriage. Not Nathaniel. Claire noticed the difference immediately. Her fingers tightened around the phone. Where is he? Neither woman answered fast enough. Tiny hesitation. Tiny mistake. Sabrina looked away first. Evelyn folded her arms. Nathaniel is handling a situation. What situation? You do not need to concern yourself with it. Claire let out a quiet laugh before she could stop herself. It sounded strange even to her own ears. Thin. Frayed. I am 7 months pregnant in a wedding dress while my fiancé disappears and his mistress is wearing family jewelry. She swallowed hard. I think I am involved. For the first time, Evelyn's expression hardened completely. You are emotional right now. There it was again. Emotional. Hormonal. Fragile. Claire suddenly remembered every conversation over the last few months where someone had gently suggested she rest more, stress less, avoid business dinners, stop asking difficult questions. Not protection. Containment. Her stomach turned. Then her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Second message. Check the suite upstairs. Before they erase it, Claire looked up sharply. Sabrina noticed. And this time she actually lost composure for half a second. Fear. Real fear. It flashed across her face and disappeared so quickly most people would have missed it. Claire did not. Without another word, she turned toward the door. Evelyn stepped directly into her path. Claire. The warning in her voice stopped the room cold. You are not going anywhere. Claire stared at her future mother-in-law for a long moment. The polished pearls. Perfect makeup. Steady posture. Everything expensive. Everything controlled. Then she quietly asked the question she had been avoiding all morning. Did Nathaniel ask you to stop me? Evelyn said nothing. That silence answered enough. Claire pushed past her. Not dramatic. Not violent. Just determined. Sabrina moved suddenly. Claire, wait. But Claire was already out in the hallway. The elevator near the ballroom was packed with guests and photographers, so she headed toward the private staircase instead, lifting the front of her wedding dress carefully with one hand while the other stayed protectively against her stomach. The hotel suddenly felt different now. Too quiet in certain corners. Too many staff members avoiding eye contact. Too many whispered conversations stopping when she walked past. Halfway upstairs, Claire froze. A man in a dark suit was coming down from the executive floor, carrying 2 large black trash bags. Hotel security. One bag shifted slightly as he adjusted his grip. Paperwork. Folders maybe. The man saw Claire and stopped instantly. His expression changed. Not surprise. Recognition. Like he knew exactly who she was supposed to be. And exactly where she was not supposed to go. Then Claire noticed the corner of a white envelope slipping out from the top of the bag. Her name was written across it in Nathaniel's handwriting. The security guard's hand tightened around the trash bag the second Claire looked at the envelope. For one strange moment, neither of them moved. The hotel hallway felt frozen in expensive silence. Crystal chandeliers glowed overhead. Somewhere downstairs, the string quartet had started playing again, softer this time, like the wedding itself was trying to pretend nothing was wrong. Claire stared at her own name written across the white envelope in Nathaniel's handwriting. Not printed. Handwritten. Personal. The guard recovered first. "Ma'am, this floor is restricted right now." Restricted? Claire almost laughed. She was carrying Nathaniel Brooks's child while wearing a $6,000 wedding dress chosen by his mother, and suddenly she needed permission to walk through his hotel. "What is in the bag?" she asked quietly. "Private documents." His eyes dropped briefly to her stomach before looking away again. Guilt. Definitely guilt. Claire stepped forward slowly. "Then why is my name on one of them?" The guard opened his mouth, but another voice cut through the hallway before he answered. "Claire." "Nathaniel." Her entire body reacted before her mind did. Relief hit first. Fast and humiliating. Her lungs loosened. Her shoulders dropped. Even the baby shifted calmer beneath her ribs. Then she saw his face. Something was wrong. Nathaniel Brooks always looked controlled. Boardroom controlled. Magazine cover controlled. But now his tie hung loose around his collar, and tension sat heavy behind his eyes like he had not slept in days. He looked past Claire directly at the security guard. "Leave us." The guard hesitated only a second before handing Nathaniel the trash bags and walking away quickly. Claire's pulse started climbing again. Nathaniel held the bags tightly enough to wrinkle the plastic. "You should not be up here." That seems to be everyone's favorite sentence today. His jaw tightened slightly. Claire noticed everything now. The faint scratch near his cufflink. The crease in his shirt sleeve. The fact that he still had not kissed her. Not even looked properly at the veil or the baby or anything that mattered. Just stress. Silence. Distance. Her voice dropped lower. "Who texted me?" Nathaniel's expression changed immediately. Tiny reaction. "But enough. You got messages?" Claire pulled out her phone. "Someone told me not to marry you." For the first time all morning, Nathaniel looked genuinely alarmed. Not angry. Not defensive. Afraid. He stepped closer instinctively. "Claire, listen to me carefully. You need to go downstairs and stay around people." A cold wave moved through her chest. That was not the response of an innocent man. "What is happening?" Nathaniel glanced toward the executive suite hallway behind him instead of answering. Suite 1908. The private presidential suite. The same floor Lily claimed Sabrina had visited that morning. Claire followed his eyes. And suddenly she understood. Whatever secret existed was inside that room. "You were in there with her," Claire whispered. Nathaniel's silence hit harder than shouting ever could. The baby kicked sharply again. Claire pressed a hand against her stomach while the tiny blood stain on her veil brushed her wrist like a warning she should have understood sooner. "I knew it," she said quietly, voice breaking despite her effort to stop it. "God, I knew something was wrong." Nathaniel stepped toward her again. "It is not what you think." Every cheating man in America probably said those exact words before destroying someone's life. Claire's eyes filled instantly, but this time she refused to cry. Not in front of him. Not anymore. Then the suite door behind Nathaniel clicked open. Claire looked up and saw Sabrina standing inside the presidential suite, holding a champagne glass in one hand and an ultrasound photo in the other. Time slowed in the hallway. Claire could hear the faint clink of ice against Sabrina's champagne glass. Could hear the soft buzz of the hotel lights overhead. Could hear her own heartbeat pounding unevenly behind her ribs while Nathaniel stood between them like a man realizing every lie had finally reached the same room at once. Then Claire looked at the ultrasound photo. Not just looked, recognized it. The black and white printout had a small gold star sticker in the corner. Claire's doctor used those stickers during milestone appointments. 12 weeks. First heartbeat. Gender reveal. Claire still had identical stickers in a memory box at home. Her throat tightened instantly. That is mine, she whispered. Sabrina's fingers curled slightly around the photo, but she did not deny it. You left it in Nathaniel's office. Claire slowly looked toward Nathaniel. He still said nothing. That silence was becoming unbearable. Not because it confirmed guilt, because it felt like he was hiding something worse. Sabrina took a small sip of champagne and leaned casually against the suite doorway. You should probably tell her now, before she walks downstairs in front of 200 people looking foolish. Nathaniel's jaw flexed hard enough for Claire to notice. Stop talking, he said coldly. But Sabrina smiled. Not nervous anymore. Confident. Like someone who believed she already won. Claire suddenly realized the presidential suite behind Sabrina looked lived in. A woman's coat draped across the couch. Makeup near the bathroom sink. Open garment bags hanging beside the window. Not a meeting. Not business. A setup. The tiny blood stain on Claire's veil suddenly felt hotter against her skin. You brought her here today, Claire said quietly. Nathaniel stepped forward immediately. Claire, listen to me carefully. None of this is what it looks like. Again, that sentence. Every nerve in Claire's body started going numb. What exactly does it look like then? She asked. No answer. Downstairs, the ballroom erupted into applause again. The wedding planner was clearly stalling for time now, keeping guests distracted, buying minutes before people started asking dangerous questions. Claire saw it all differently now. The stopped music, the whispering staff, the locked-away documents, the mysterious texts. Not chaos. Coordination. Then Sabrina casually lowered the champagne glass onto the hallway table and said the one thing Claire was not prepared for. He told Evelyn he could not marry you after the paternity report came back. Everything inside Claire went still. Nathaniel turned instantly. Enough. But the damage was already done. Claire physically stepped backward like the floor had shifted beneath her heels. One hand covered her stomach protectively before she even realized she was doing it. Paternity. The word echoed through her head so loudly she barely heard the rest. Sabrina folded her arms slowly. You did not wonder why he suddenly wanted another test last month. Claire's breathing turned shallow. Nathaniel had asked for additional prenatal screening 6 weeks ago. He blamed legal advisors, trust complications, family protocols. Claire remembered feeling hurt at the time. Now she felt sick. You think this baby is not yours? She asked softly. Nathaniel looked at her immediately. I never said that. But he also did not say no. That hurt more. Claire felt tears burn her eyes again. But this time anger arrived first. Hotter, sharper, strong enough to cut through the humiliation. Then her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. New message. Look inside the envelope before you believe any of them. Claire's eyes moved instantly toward the trash bags Nathaniel still held in his hand. The white envelope with her name had disappeared. Claire's eyes locked onto the trash bags in Nathaniel's hands. The envelope was gone. 1 second earlier it had been there. White paper. Her name. Nathaniel's handwriting. Now nothing. Her pulse spiked, so hard she could hear it in her ears. Where is it? She asked quietly. Nathaniel looked confused for the first time all morning. Real confusion. His eyes dropped immediately toward the bags. He shifted them slightly apart, checking inside. Empty folders. Loose paperwork. No envelope. Sabrina watched the reaction carefully, and suddenly her confidence sharpened. Interesting. Claire noticed that too. This was the first thing today that genuinely surprised Nathaniel, which meant someone else was moving pieces around them. Someone neither of them controlled. You are being manipulated, Nathaniel said quickly, lowering his voice as he stepped closer. Claire, I need you to trust me for 10 minutes. Trust. The word almost made her laugh. Claire stared at him in disbelief. You questioned whether this baby was yours. I questioned a report. That report was about my child. Our child, he snapped back instantly. Silence followed. Heavy silence. Because despite everything, Nathaniel had finally said the one thing Claire needed to hear. Our child. Not your baby. Not the baby. Ours. Claire saw the realization hit Sabrina too. Her expression flickered for a split second before she recovered. Then the elevator at the end of the hallway opened. Evelyn stepped out, holding a tablet in one hand and immediately froze when she saw all three of them together. The tension shifted instantly. Claire noticed it. Nathaniel noticed it. Even Sabrina straightened. Evelyn's eyes moved directly toward the trash bags. Not toward Claire. Not toward Nathaniel. The bags. And suddenly Claire understood something terrifying. Whatever mattered most today was not emotional. It was inside those documents. You found them? Evelyn asked carefully. Nathaniel did not answer. Wrong move. Because Evelyn's face changed immediately. Tiny crack in the armor. Fear. Real fear. Claire's stomach tightened hard again. This time stronger. Her breathing caught halfway through her chest before settling again. Nathaniel noticed instantly. Are you okay? Claire ignored him. Her eyes stayed locked on Evelyn. You knew about the paternity report too. Evelyn slowly set the tablet down on a hallway table. Claire, emotions are very dangerous during pregnancy. You should not be stressing yourself like this. Again, emotional, hormonal, fragile. Every time they wanted control, they used the baby against her. Claire suddenly saw the pattern so clearly it made her nauseous. Then a voice echoed from the stairwell behind them. Aunt Claire. Lily stood there holding the missing white envelope tightly against her chest. Everyone froze. The little girl looked terrified. Sabrina moved first. Lily, sweetheart, give that to me. The child stepped backward immediately. No, Claire saw tears gathering in Lily's eyes. I found it in the trash room. The man said nobody could see it. Nathaniel's face went cold. What man? But Lily looked only at Claire as she crossed the hallway and carefully handed over the envelope with trembling fingers. The seal had already been broken. Claire's name stared back at her in black ink while the baby shifted restlessly beneath her ribs again. Nathaniel reached for the envelope carefully. Claire, do not open that here. That was the worst thing he could have said, because now she knew whatever was inside could destroy this wedding completely. Claire slowly opened the flap anyway. Inside was a DNA report, and underneath it was a second document. A transfer request removing her unborn child from the Brooks Family Inheritance Trust signed by Evelyn Brooks 3 days earlier. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Claire stared at Evelyn's signature at the bottom of the transfer request while her fingers slowly tightened around the paper hard enough to wrinkle it. The hallway suddenly felt too warm, too narrow. Her breathing turned shallow again as the baby shifted restlessly beneath the tight fabric of her dress. Removed from inheritance eligibility, pending final paternity confirmation. Cold legal language. Clean. Professional. Cruel. Claire looked up slowly. You tried to erase my child before he was even born. Evelyn's face remained controlled, but the cracks were showing now. Tiny ones. Around her eyes. Around her mouth. The look of someone realizing private decisions had escaped into daylight. It was precautionary, Evelyn said carefully. The Brooks family has legal responsibilities. Nathaniel stepped forward instantly. You had no authority to file this. Evelyn finally snapped her attention toward him. I was protecting this family because you refused to make difficult decisions. That landed harder than Claire expected, because Nathaniel did not deny it fast enough. Sabrina noticed too. Claire saw satisfaction flicker across her face before she quickly masked it again. The DNA report trembled slightly in Claire's hands. She had not even looked at the results yet. Somehow the fear of seeing them suddenly felt worse than everything else. Nathaniel saw where her eyes went. Claire, stop. Let me explain first. Explain what? She whispered. Why your mother was removing our baby from your family while your mistress walked around in heirloom jewelry. Sabrina folded her arms. You keep calling me that like you still think this is about cheating. Claire looked at her sharply. Wrong sentence. Too loaded. Too confident. Nathaniel heard it too. His expression darkened immediately. Sabrina. But she kept going. You really still do not understand what is happening here, do you? The baby kicked sharply again, and Claire instinctively pressed one hand against the side of her stomach. Her body was reacting before her brain could keep up now. Fear. Stress. Instinct. Then Lily quietly tugged on Claire's dress. Everyone had almost forgotten the little girl was still standing there. Aunt Claire, she whispered carefully. That lady in the trash room said Grandma was crying earlier. The hallway went completely still. Claire slowly looked at Evelyn. Crying? That did not fit. Evelyn Brooks did not cry. She controlled boardrooms filled with billionaires. She once negotiated a merger while sitting through a kidney stone attack without showing pain. Nathaniel himself told that story like family mythology. But Lily nodded nervously. I heard her say, if she opens the report, everything falls apart. Claire's pulse spiked. Not if she sees the report. If she opens it. There was a difference. A very important difference. Claire looked back down at the paperwork in her hands. Slowly now. Carefully. That was when she noticed something strange. The DNA report pages were unstapled. Every medical report she had ever received from the Brooks legal office came sealed and notarized. Organized obsessively. This one looked rushed. Tampered with. Nathaniel noticed her expression immediately. Claire. She flipped the first page over. Then the second. Her breath caught. The final signature page was missing. No lab authentication. No verification seal. The report had no legal completion. Sabrina's calm expression disappeared instantly. Nathaniel grabbed the papers from Claire's hands and scanned them fast. His face changed color. This is not the original report. Evelyn closed her eyes briefly. Tiny movement. But enough. And suddenly the sound of applause exploded downstairs again as the wedding coordinator announced over the ballroom speakers that the ceremony would begin in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. That was all the time left before Claire Holloway either walked into the ballroom as a bride or walked out of the Brooks empire forever. The announcement downstairs echoed through the hotel speakers again, softer this time, followed by polite applause from guests who had no idea the family they admired was collapsing floor by floor above them. Nathaniel stared at the incomplete DNA report in stunned silence. Then he looked directly at Sabrina. Where is the original? His voice had changed. No confusion now. No hesitation. Cold. Sabrina folded her arms tighter, but Claire noticed the shift immediately. The confidence was slipping. Tiny cracks beginning to spread beneath the polished exterior. I do not know what you are talking about. Nathaniel took one slow step toward her. You took documents from my office this morning. That is a serious accusation. You used my mother's credentials to access legal files. Evelyn finally spoke sharply. Nathaniel, enough. But he ignored her completely. Claire watched all of it through a strange fog of adrenaline and exhaustion. Her lower back ached now from standing too long. The baby had gone unusually still for the first time all morning, and somehow that scared her more than the kicking had. Then Nathaniel held up the incomplete report. This was altered. The hallway fell silent again. Sabrina laughed once, but it sounded forced now. You are blaming me because your fiancé cannot handle the truth. Claire looked at her carefully. Truth. Another deliberate word. Not affair. Not marriage. Truth. Suddenly Claire remembered the text messages. Do not marry him. Check the suite upstairs. Look inside the envelope before you believe any of them. Every anonymous warning had pushed her toward the documents, not away from Nathaniel. Whoever sent those messages wanted her to find something specific. Not cheating. Evidence. The realization hit hard enough that Claire physically straightened. Nathaniel noticed immediately. What is it? Claire looked slowly between him and Sabrina, then at Evelyn, then finally at the missing authentication page. And suddenly she understood who benefited most from a fake paternity scandal. Not Sabrina. Evelyn. Because if Claire's child lost inheritance rights, Brooks Global remained under Evelyn's control longer. The room changed instantly once Claire saw it. This was never about love triangles. It was about power. Sabrina was just part of the machinery. You used her, Claire whispered toward Evelyn. For the first time all morning, genuine emotion crossed Evelyn's face. Not guilt. Fear. Nathaniel turned sharply toward his mother. Tell me she is wrong. Evelyn stayed silent. That silence answered everything. Sabrina stepped backward instinctively. Evelyn, say something. Interesting. Not Mrs. Brooks. Not confidence. Panic. Claire suddenly realized Sabrina had not expected to be abandoned either. Then Nathaniel grabbed the tablet Evelyn left on the hallway table and opened it quickly. Password protected. But he already knew the code. His face darkened instantly as he scrolled through hidden legal transfers, private trust amendments, and internal emails. One message sat at the top of the screen. Delay ceremony until report finalized. Another below it. If Claire refuses revised trust terms, proceed with emergency injunction before birth. Claire felt cold all over. Emergency injunction. They had legal plans ready before the wedding even started. The baby moved sharply again, almost painfully this time, and Claire pressed one hand against her stomach while Nathaniel kept reading in horrified silence. Then his thumb stopped scrolling. His face lost all color. Claire's pulse spiked immediately. What? Nathaniel looked up slowly. There is one more file. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Nathaniel swallowed once before turning the tablet toward Claire. At the top of the screen was a private medical report dated 3 weeks earlier. Patient name, Sabrina Cole. Pregnancy confirmation. Nobody reacted at first. Claire stared at the pregnancy confirmation on the tablet, while the words slowly rearranged themselves into something uglier than betrayal. Sabrina was pregnant. The hallway suddenly felt airless. Nathaniel looked physically sick now, one hand braced against the wall beside him while the tablet hung frozen in his other hand. Evelyn said nothing. For the first time in her life, the woman who controlled billion-dollar negotiations had no script ready. But Sabrina moved fast. This is not what it looks like. Claire almost laughed at the irony. The exact same sentence Nathaniel used upstairs. Except now nobody believed it anymore. Nathaniel lifted his eyes slowly. Whose child is it? Sabrina hesitated. And that hesitation answered. Enough. Claire watched Nathaniel's expression collapse piece by piece. Not dramatic. Not explosive. Just quiet devastation settling behind his eyes as months of manipulation finally clicked into place. Then Claire understood something else too. The missing envelope. The fake DNA report. The anonymous texts warning her. Someone inside this disaster had still tried to protect her. And suddenly she knew who. Lily. Not intentionally maybe. Not fully understanding. But every truth today reached Claire because one frightened little girl kept carrying pieces of reality through a family built on silence. The thought hit Claire harder than anything else had. The baby shifted again beneath her ribs, strong this time. Alive. Present. Real. Her child had become a bargaining chip inside a war that started long before she even walked into this family. Nathaniel finally looked toward his mother. How long? Evelyn's composure cracked completely then. Not loudly. Not emotionally. Just exhaustion finally showing through years of control. She was never supposed to get pregnant, Evelyn whispered. Claire felt cold all over. Nathaniel stared at her in disbelief. You used Sabrina to pressure Claire out of the trust. Evelyn closed her eyes briefly. I was protecting Brooks Global. No, Nathaniel said quietly. You were protecting yourself. Downstairs the ballroom doors opened, and applause erupted again as guests mistakenly assumed the ceremony was finally beginning. Claire realized the wedding coordinator had probably been stalling for almost an hour. An entire ballroom full of wealthy strangers waiting for a fairy tale while the family upstairs quietly destroyed itself. Then Sabrina suddenly stepped forward toward Nathaniel. You told me you were trapped. Nathaniel looked at her like he barely recognized her now. I told you my mother controlled everything. That is not the same thing. Sabrina's eyes filled instantly, but Claire noticed something important. Not heartbreak. Fear. Because Sabrina finally understood she was disposable too. Everyone was disposable once Evelyn Brooks decided power mattered more than people. Claire slowly removed the diamond engagement ring from her finger. The movement silenced the hallway completely. Nathaniel's face changed immediately. Claire. But she shook her head gently. The tiny blood stain still marked the edge of her veil. The stain she noticed before all of this began. Warning. Not accident. Claire carefully placed the ring on top of the incomplete DNA report inside Nathaniel's hands. I spent months thinking someone was trying to destroy our relationship, she said softly. I did not realize your family was destroying itself. Nathaniel looked